Hey there, fellow sunshine seekers. So you're ready to pack your bags and chase the sun in South Florida. But there's a big question kind of hanging over your heads. So should you head to for the stylish streets of Miami, or is the charm of Fort Lauderdale calling your name? So folks, today, let's just dive right into it. Today we're going to look at these two coastal powerhouses. So I guess, are y'all about the vibrant energy of Miami, the pulsing beats of South Beach, and the possibility of celebrity spotting down in Miami? Or perhaps you're leaning towards Fort Lauderdale's laid-back elegance, the tranquil canals, the allure of the yachting along the intercoastal waterway. Whether you're craving mojitos by Ocean Drive or cocktails by Las Olas, we've got your Florida dream covered. So grab your hat, hit the subscribe button, and let's go ahead and embark on the journey of a lifetime. Folks, if you're moving to South Florida, one of the biggest factors to consider is location and accessibility. So Fort Lauderdale is located about 30 miles north of Miami, and it's accessible very easily via I-95 and also via I-75 coming from the West Coast. The city has its own international airport, Hollywood Fort Lauderdale Airport, and it services both international flights and domestic flights all over the U.S. Like Miami, it's an international airport, but it's a little bit smaller than Miami. So Miami, on the other hand, is a major city, and it has a major airport, bustling airport, one of the largest in the country, handling international flights and domestic flights, basically 24 hours a day. So, if you're someone who wants to travel frequently or you're heading out to international, Miami may be a little bit better choice for you. At least the Miami airport may be a little better choice for you. We've also seen that going to Central America and South America, the flights out of Miami International Airport are a tad bit cheaper than those coming out of Fort Lauderdale, Hollywood. However, if a laid-back lifestyle is kind of more your choice and you don't really kind of want to fight traffic getting into the airport and a little bit easier parking, then you may want to consider looking at the Fort Lauderdale Hollywood International Airport. As far as transportation and accessibility, Miami's got you beat hands down. It's a much larger city. There are pockets of Miami that actually have population that's greater than that of the Fort Lauderdale metropolitan area. However, Miami does have has a more extensive public transportation system, has a more extensive bus system, rail system. It has the Tri-Rail, it has the Metro Rail, the Metro Mover, and that's an important factor for commuters. Fort Lauderdale, on the other hand, basically has, they have the Broward County Transit, they have other options coming in, but you don't have the extent of the public transportation and the support of the public transportation in Fort Lauderdale that you would have in Miami. So I guess the easiest way to kind of differentiate between the two real estate markets is Fort Lauderdale is much more laid back. It's kind of a relaxed vibe compared to the downtown beat of Miami. Now, that doesn't mean that Fort Lauderdale doesn't have its share of entertainment, the Las Olas Boulevard area. Folks, you've heard us talk about it in many of our other videos. Las Olas Boulevard is synonymous with Fort Lauderdale. It doesn't have the glamour feels like Miami South Beach, or Brickell. It doesn't have the exclusivity of Fisher Island. Okay, but those are just basically, kind of the Fort Lauderdale area has seen a surge in real estate prices. Maybe, and part of the reason is that there are a lot of folks that are coming down, and while they can go visit Miami, they can kind of, hang out for that relaxed, laid-back vibe. One of the other key indicators of the real estate market is that there has been significant housing price increases in both Miami and Fort Lauderdale. However, of the two, Miami has seen a much more significant increase in real estate prices. So, and it's a lot of that is really coming down to kind of the supply and the demand as a function of the population. At any given point in time, the population of the greater Fort Lauderdale area is between 600,000 and 700,000 or 800,000. Miami, on the other hand, is upwards of a couple of million. Okay, and with the overall shortage of inventory availability here in the South Florida area, you can see it much more significant in the Miami area, where you have a lot more folks that are kind of vying for that limited number of properties that are available. Whereas in Fort Lauderdale, there are still more buyers than sellers, but because the ratio of buyers of property in Fort Lauderdale is much less than the ratio of buyers to properties in Miami, Fort Lauderdale is not seeing the same magnitude of price increases that Miami has seen. Now, there's a couple other kind of key differentiators between real estate and the layout of Fort Lauderdale, Miami. One of them is basically Fort Lauderdale, and you've heard us say this before, it's known as the Venice of America. There's over 300 miles of canals and waterways that kind of weave their way throughout Fort Lauderdale, making it basically a yachting paradise. I mean, folks come down to Fort Lauderdale, come down for the boating experience, for the yachting experience. It's so significant that in October, the Fort Lauderdale International Boat Show, and it brings boats from all over the world. It is one of the premier yachting events in the world, and it's packed. Now, with Miami is a lot more kind of a pulsing beat. It's kind of more hip. You've got South Beach, you've got Brickell, you've got all kinds of places where people kind of hang out. You've got Coral Gables where folks kind of hang out, University of Miami. You got proximity to the Miami Dolphins, Miami Marlins. You have Hard Rock Stadium. There's all kinds. It's just a whole different vibe for folks, and it's and it really depends upon kind of what you're looking for and what your focus is. I guess some of the key neighborhoods that we can use as kind of a reference from kind of differentiate and define the two different cities is basically if you look at like Las Olas Isles, big homes on a canal. It's kind of like an old, and they're very well maintained. They're very, they've been in the same family for years and years and years, in some cases multi-generational. You have Idlewild, Seven Isles, you have Harbor Beach, which is basically a very exclusive yachting community. It actually has its own marina. You can almost only get there by boat. So you have Rio Vista and Coral Ridge. These are all kind of the big traditional South Florida, family homes that have been around for decades and been around for generations. Now, in Miami, you have Miami Beach, and basically, with the possible exception of saying South Beach, just saying Miami Beach kind of defines what Miami Beach is about. I mean, it's a separate little island. It's like a little barrier island separate from the mainland of Miami. It's basically, it's where the young and the hip, the young at heart, the hip, the wannabe hip, everybody who wants to be seen and they want to see. That's one of the places that they go. It's a lot different than the older, more established neighborhoods in Fort Lauderdale. If you look at places like North Beach, which is kind of the north side, that's where there's a lot of, you have Aventura, which is one of the nicest, probably the nicest mall that Suzanne and I have ever seen, but it has basically anything you could want. It has Gucci, it has Prada, it has Porsche, it has Tesla, it has Ferrari. Anything you could want is in North Miami Beach. You have the mid-beach area, which is kind of like, it's taking some of the bits and pieces from Fort Lauderdale. You have some of the more traditional homes in there, but because it's flanked by kind of the upscale areas, the kind of the young and the young at heart areas, you're seeing a lot more influence going into the mid-beach. And of course you have areas like Brickell, and you have areas like the pop art areas, if you will, in Miami that basically are attracting, a lot of the young hipsters coming down. And it's just, again, it comes down to where, we're not saying one's better than the other or any place is better than the other. It's just a question of really what you're looking for and how much time do you want to spend living there versus how much time do you want to spend going and visiting. Now when considering the cost of living, while certainly housing prices and housing costs are a primary consideration, other factors such as transportation, food, entertainment, and other miscellaneous are also a significant factor. Now, while Miami may have some of the higher salaries, it also has some of the higher costs. As a matter of fact, we've seen going from Broward County into Miami-Dade County, we've seen the cost of gasoline go up as much as 10 cents a gallon just because you're in a different county. And again, it's just Miami does offer, as a general rule, a little bit higher salaries, but the costs are a little bit higher. Now, Fort Lauderdale, on the other hand, may be a little bit more manageable, may be a little bit more economical, but the city does have a little bit lower cost of living as compared to Miami. But folks, just to be transparent, the cost of living in South Florida generally is higher than the cost of living in most other areas of Florida and most of the other areas of the United States, with the exceptions of areas like New York, Chicago, San Francisco, LA. Cali's very, very expensive to live in, Boston, but overall you're paying. And keep in mind, we said this in a number of our videos, when you come down to South Florida, in addition to coming into paradise, you're actually coming to enjoy a lifestyle. You're going to be outside a lot more. You're going to have a lot more things that are open available to you. And folks, in all transparency, there is an additional cost for that. So and while both cities have their advantages and have their disadvantages, again, we would very strongly caution everybody to reach out to experts like my team and I if you have questions about what you should be doing, and where you should be going. If there's a budget in mind, we want to make sure that we're capturing everything that you need to capture. We also want to make sure that you're looking at the things that are the important pieces to look at. I mean, we've had a number of folks that have just kind of come down and said, I just want to live by the beach. And I kid you not. And actually, in all honesty, Suzanne and I were very similar. We came in here a number of years ago because we figured we'd be going to the beach every weekend. Well, for the first month and a half we lived here, we did. Okay, and then after about 2 or 3 months, we kind of started going out and seeing other areas and other things, and we kind of started going to the beach like every other weekend. And then it got going one weekend a month. Then it got to be where we've gone maybe a month or two without going to the beach. So, one of the things that you want to consider is talking with experts like my team and I, making sure that you're informed on all of the things that are available, because while there are some great, wonderful things about South Florida, about Miami, and about Fort Lauderdale, you want to take these into consideration when you're making your decision. So folks, again, I'd encourage you to, go ahead and drop a little questions you guys may have in the boxes below. If you're not sure, go ahead and give us a little call, shoot us a little text, a little email, click on the little calendar link that's in there. Okay, set up an appointment. Let's chit chat for about 40-45 minutes and kind of go through some of the things that you're thinking about. And we can even give you some things that you hadn't thought about that you maybe need to consider. So, but again, it's going to be something where you're just going to have to really kind of dig down and think about what's important to you, okay? And basically assign a value to that and figure out which place works the best for you. Now, folks, no conversation about South Florida, regardless of where you're talking about, would be complete without talking about nightlife and entertainment. I mean, there is basically, to say that there is something for everyone is a gross understatement. I mean, whether you're in Miami, whether you're in Homestead, whether you're down in the Keys, whether you're in Fort Lauderdale, there is literally something for basically everybody. And it's a huge entertainment scene. And it's everything from, Miami. Downtown Miami, for example, you have all kinds of clubs. Those of you that haven't been to South Beach, if you make it down to South Florida, make it down to the Miami area, I would strongly encourage you to go just for the experience. But it's more than just the beach. There's the Miami Heat basketball. There's the Miami Dolphins football, the Miami Marlins baseball team. There's the Florida Panthers, the professional hockey team. Yes, we do. In South Florida, we do have a professional hockey team, and I'm telling you, they are good. They are real good. Very, very popular down here in South Florida. Also, the University of Miami, a perennial NCAA participant, and so there's all kinds of great, wonderful things to do from the standpoint of entertainment. There's concerts. There's a number of different concert venues, and so we draw big names. Romeo Santos. We rest in peace, Jimmy Buffett. We saw Jimmy Buffett not too long ago. There's all kinds of great, wonderful entertainment venues that go down. There's all kinds of culture. There's some beautiful museums in Miami. There are also some great, wonderful museums in and around the Fort Lauderdale area. It's a little bit different vibe, a little bit different taste. Fort Lauderdale, actually, as we said, is kind of known for its laid back, kind of easygoing. You have like the Bonnet House. You can go take a look at. You have the New River area. You have the riverfront area. And of course, you have Las Olas and you have the Fort Lauderdale Beach area. But there's a lot of different venues that you can look at, all kinds of different entertainment in the Fort Lauderdale area, as well as the Miami area. So, I mean, it's one of these things where, and the beauty of it, because it's only about 30 miles apart, if you're looking for something that maybe is not in one, chances are it's going to be in the other one, and it's a short drive, or in most cases, it's easier to Uber because of parking. The short drive or a short Uber ride from one city to the other. Now, also as far as entertainment, now I'm going to kind of go out on a limb and say that that for some folks, shopping is actually entertainment. Okay, and for those of you that haven't been down to Fort Lauderdale and been down on Las Olas Boulevard, think of it from the standpoint of kind of a Rodeo Drive, a Fifth Avenue, and a restaurant row. And Miami along Ocean Drive in South Beach has exactly the same thing. It's all kinds of great and wonderful shopping, all kinds of great and wonderful entertainment. Many, many times have we gone down to South Beach to just kind of sit down and just kind of watch and do a little people watching and kind of see what's going on, and just to try some of the different cuisines that are down in the Miami area. We do the same thing in Fort Lauderdale, but again, being so close, if it's something that we heard about or something we want to go ahead and check out, again, drop on the Tri-Rail. You can get down to downtown Miami in about 35-40 minutes. From Fort Lauderdale to Miami International Airport, again, from a transportation perspective, on the Tri-Rail, it's 45 minutes. So, it's a nice little trade-off. Now, I consider myself a bit of a foodie, okay? My wife and my kids, however, they kind of consider me kind of a foodie wannabe. But anyhow, regardless of whether you're a foodie, whether you're a foodie wannabe, or you just enjoy fantastic cuisine and you enjoy a great variety of it, you can't go wrong in either Miami or in Fort Lauderdale. Fort Lauderdale, I will tell you, has the more traditional South Florida seafood type of cuisines. There's a seafood restaurant on every block. There's a seafood restaurant on almost every street. If you're into seafood, Fort Lauderdale is definitely one of the places to be. If you're into different cuisines, Cuban cuisine, into Central American cuisine, Latin cuisine, if you're into even Chinese, Oriental cuisine, Filipino cuisine, Miami is definitely the place to be. It's a huge melting pot, and you have everything from almost like, for those of you that have been in other countries, you almost would be like street food, which is absolutely fantastic. I spent a lot of time in London, I spent a lot of time in Mexico, and I love walking the streets and getting food from the street vendors. It's some of the best food and the best meals I've ever had. So you have a lot of that opportunity in Miami. Fort Lauderdale, flipping back, you have the seafood. You have some great steak houses, you have the Palm, you have Ruth's Chris, you have Morton's. I mean, you have the same down in Miami, but there's a little bit different flair. There's a little bit more of a, of a Caribbean type of a flair, a little bit more of a Latin type of a flair. There's all kinds of things that kind of come into it. So again, depending upon what you're looking for, you can very easily find it. If you can't find it in Lauderdale, I'm sure you can find it in Miami. And if you can't find it in either one of them, it probably doesn't exist. So folks, let's talk about the elephant in the room, okay? It's hurricane season here in South Florida, okay? And whether you live in Miami or you live in Fort Lauderdale or you live in West Palm Beach, anywhere in South Florida, you need to be cognizant of hurricanes. So question number one, that folks who have not been down to South Florida before, have only been here sporadically, or maybe they've only been here after hurricane season and they haven't experienced it, the first question they ask is, is it really as bad as everybody says? And honestly, I mean, I guess it's a question of, how do you look at it? From my perspective, okay, we've been through 4 or 5 of them, and it's never been as bad as everybody says. I mean, I think in many cases, in order to prepare people, they kind of assume the worst, okay? Now, that doesn't mean that a hurricane is a laughing matter. I mean, it's something that needs to be considered, and you need to be cognizant of it, but more from the standpoint of how you prepare yourself in your hurricane preparedness. I mean, if you're waiting till the day before the hurricane is supposed to strike, then you know what? You're probably about a week too late in preparing for it. Okay? But it is something that needs to be considered. I mean, folks, we've had folks come down from other areas of the country, folks that have come down from the Midwest where you've basically had tornadoes, folks that have come in from, we've had a number of friends come in from Cali where they've been through earthquakes. So, it's one of these things where the more knowledgeable about it you are, the better prepared for it you are, the easier it's going to be for you to go through. Now, in all fairness, I'll share my hurricane preparedness story, or my hurricane preparedness tips is basically, it consists of 3 things. All I need to have is a Cuban cigar, a bottle of tequila, and a bag of ice, and I'm good. That's how I've gotten through most of the hurricanes. Suzanne thinks I'm a nut, but I enjoy it. But honestly, we're so well prepared, and preparedness down here basically turns a lot of the hurricanes into hurricane parties. So folks, ultimately, Fort Lauderdale and Miami have a lot to offer. And the right choice kind of depends upon your personal preferences, and it depends upon, of course, your wallet and your budget, and it also really kind of depends upon your priorities. So if you're looking for something a little bit more laid back, then Fort Lauderdale may be a little bit more to your liking. If you kind of want to be in the middle of everything and you want to get into the rhythm of the beat and the rhythm of the street, Miami may be the place for you to hang out, maybe the place for you to check out, but keep in mind, you're only 30 minutes apart. So if you're not sure about one, you can always go up and hang out at the other one, okay? So, we hope you enjoyed the video. We hope you got a lot of information out of it. We hope you got a little bit of education out of it, and a little bit of entertainment too. If you did, please go ahead and click the subscribe button, hit the little bell so you get notified every time we drop a video. Let your friends know about the videos so you can kind of share the knowledge, share the wealth, okay? If you have any questions, go ahead and drop them in the little box below. And again, please feel free. Go ahead and shoot us a little text, give us a little email, give us a phone call if you'd like, or just click on the little calendar at the bottom of the screen. Let's set up a time to chit chat for about 40-45 minutes, kind of just go over any questions you may have about South Florida real estate market, things you're concerned about, things you may have heard, maybe there's myths you want to have debunked. Just go ahead and reach out and set up a time. We'll give us a call. We'd love to chat with you.